Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly inspiring story that honestly completely redefines human limits. We're looking at Ang Han Yu's journey of strength and resilience. So, let's dive right in. To really grasp where we're headed with this, we've got to understand where the journey starts. Ang Han Yu summed up his everyday reality with this incredibly understated sentence: "Life may be challenging for me." And wow, is that an understatement for what he faces every single morning? We're not just talking about a minor physical hurdle or your standard rehab program here. We're talking about an all-encompassing daily battle just for basic mobility and breath. Keep those words in the back of your mind as we go through this explainer, okay? It really anchors the human element right at the center of all the clinical data we're going to look at, because at the end of the day, this isn't a medical file. This is Han Yu's life. When you actually see Han Yu's x-rays, the staggering magnitude of his condition becomes completely undeniable. Notice that extreme sweeping S shape of the spinal column. It's violently twisting away from a natural vertical alignment. The structural distortion is just massive. So we're not talking about a cosmetic issue or a mild backache. This is a catastrophic deformation of the skeletal structure that literally alters the entire architecture of his upper body. To put a hard metric on that, consider this number: 175. Han Yu is battling a 175-degree scoliosis curve. In the medical world, a curve of that magnitude is categorized as severe, and frankly, it's life-threatening. Why? Well, because a 175-degree curvature doesn't just mess with your back, it critically alters the rib cage. This extreme deformation actually crushes the chest cavity inwards. It physically stops the lungs from fully expanding and places this massive, dangerous strain on his heart. So ultimately, it makes the simple, automatic act of breathing incredibly difficult, and in some positions, practically impossible. Because his skeletal structure is so heavily compromised, his body requires immense external support just to keep going. Han Yu has to wear a full-body TLSO brace for over 8 hours every single day. If you're not familiar, a TLSO brace, which stands for thoracolumbo-sacral orthopesis, is a rigid, custom-molded plastic shell that tightly encases the torso. Imagine being physically locked inside a hard plastic shell for a third of your life just to manage your spine and keep your own ribs from further compromising your internal organs. And to even get ready for his day or prep for any kind of therapy, he relies heavily on a cough assist machine just to clear his lungs and manage his breathing. So the big takeaway here is that his daily baseline for survival takes immense physical endurance before he even attempts any active therapy.
But unfortunately, that 175-degree curvature, that's really only half the battle. Han Yu also suffers from myopathy muscular dystrophy. Basically, it's a condition where the muscle fibers themselves just fail to function properly. It causes this progressive, compounding weakness over time. Because of this muscle deterioration, Han Yu is completely unable to stand or walk. Mobility is a profound, massive hurdle for him. He's essentially fighting a skeletal system that's crushing inward and a muscular system that is actively losing its power to push back.
But hey, this explainer is definitely not a tragedy. It's a story of active resistance. When you're faced with a body that feels like it's turning against itself, you have to find an intervention. And for Han Yu, that intervention and a really vital lifeline of support was found in the community at Life Hot Yoga. This is where the whole narrative shifts from the grim reality of his diagnosis to a highly structured, proactive campaign to fight back. Having a supportive community and a dedicated space for intense therapy is absolutely crucial when you're staring down odds like this.
Which brings us to the actual therapy setup over at Life Hot Yoga. Here's Master Salmik, who actually developed a highly specialized stretching method perfectly tailored for Han Yu, along with DDS therapy. Now, we really need to manage expectations here. The main goal of this therapy isn't to magically cure him, or perfectly straighten out a 175-degree curve. Structurally speaking, that's just impossible at this stage. The real goal here is survival and stabilization. The objective is to sustain the curve, stop it from getting worse, and build whatever functional strength can be salvaged from his muscles just to give his lungs a little more room to breathe.
But, logically understanding the objective doesn't make the actual process any less terrifying. I absolutely love that we have this direct quote from Han Yu about his very first session: "I don't know what is coming." You can just feel the raw first-person apprehension there, right? Imagine being in his shoes. Your body is incredibly fragile, your spine is severely deformed, and you're about to let someone physically manipulate and stretch your torso. The sheer bravery it takes just to show up to that first session, stepping into the complete unknown despite knowing it's going to hurt, is just remarkable.
So, what actually went down when he got there? Well, in this first session, Master Salmik started with a super targeted approach. Notice how deeply focused they are on stretching the neck. Now that might sound kind of surprising when the main issue is a severe torso curve, but structurally, it makes total sense. They had to strengthen those neck muscles first to help support the head and upper spine. It's all about creating a stable anchor to help hold up that severe scoliosis curve below it. It is precise, it's grueling, and it is very hands-on work.
And man, the physical toll of that first session was massive. It required a full 2-week recovery time. For 14 straight days after that one stretching session, Hanyu is just completely exhausted. His compromised muscles were pushed to a limit they literally had never seen before. But, and this is the absolute crucial turning point here, after those 2 weeks of profound fatigue finally cleared, he noticed something incredible. He felt strong. His baseline had actually shifted. The therapy, as totally punishing as it was, had worked.
Armed with that brand new feeling of strength, Hanyu went right back to Life Hot Yoga for session number 2, and this is where we really see the momentum building. He pushed through that initial fear, survived a brutal 2-week recovery, and came back for more. Think about the mental fortitude that takes. You can't just fix a 175-degree curve overnight, so consistency and sheer, stubborn willpower become your absolute best tools.
And the results of that consistency? They completely speak for themselves. After his second session, his recovery time dropped to just 1 week. That is a 50% reduction in post-therapy fatigue. Now sure, he was still exhausted for a full 7 days, but his muscular endurance was visibly, measurably adapting. His body was actually learning how to process the physical stress of Master Samik's stretching method. And just like the first time, his overall strength kept growing.
Which brings us right into the third session. Just look at the sheer intensity of the physical efforts going on here. Master Samik and the team are working directly on his torso now, actively manipulating the muscles right around that severe curve. You can see the work happening right there on the mat. Hanyu is placing absolute total trust in his therapy team, letting them stretch and challenge a skeletal structure that most people would honestly be terrified to even touch. His dedication to reclaiming his body is awe-inspiring. And this data point brilliantly illustrates exactly why that dedication matters so much. His recovery time plummeted to just 3 days, from an agonizing 2 weeks of complete exhaustion down to just 3 days of being tired. His vitality is powerfully roaring back. His muscles, even with the myopathy muscular dystrophy, are responding to the therapy. They are actively fighting back. So the therapy isn't just sustaining his curve anymore. It's fundamentally upgrading his body's ability to recover from extreme physical stress.
Let's just put this entire progression into perspective for a second, because this journey of returning vitality is really the core of today's story. Session 1, 2 weeks of fatigue. Session 2, 1 week of fatigue. Session 3, 3 days of fatigue. I don't want you to just read this as dry medical data or bullet points. This is a triumphant countdown. It's real-time, undeniable proof of returning physical strength in a body that was supposed to just keep getting weaker. It proves that targeted expert intervention, mixed with relentless willpower, can yield absolutely incredible results.
Which really leaves us with this final thought. We started out looking at a terrifying 175-degree curve and a really tough diagnosis of progressive muscle failure. But we ended up looking at a guy whose recovery time plummeted from 14 days to just 3 days, simply because he refused to stop trying. So what does Hangyu's journey teach us about the power of resilience when facing seemingly impossible physical odds? It tells us that the human spirit, when backed by the right community and guided by the right methods, can absolutely push back against the darkest of prognoses. It's just a fantastic message of hope for the scoliosis community and really for anyone fighting a battle that feels impossible. Thank you so much for hanging out with me to explore this incredible story. Keep learning, keep pushing, and I'll see you in the next explainer.